And so I'd like to welcome everyone to the March Agile Discussion Group. We've been doing these for going on 2 years now, so it's been an interesting journey. Never would think that what we used to do at our monthly meetings when we get together as a discussion group, that would become a permanent virtual thing. But hopefully, after the summer, things will start opening up. So let me share my screen. So we're basically doing lean coffee. And the reason for doing this is it seemed like everybody that was on the call last month was really interested, and the discussion was pretty lively. So when we got together, we thought we'd just continue the discussion since it was fresh in everyone's mind. And so just as a brief introduction, if you haven't met Nitin or I yet, I've been working in this space. I used to say for over 10 years, so now I'm probably going to say probably 11 or 12 years. Time really flies. I can't believe it that I'm going to be at my current job at BNY Mellon for 5 years come September. It's like, I seem to feel like I just started there. So pretty much I've been doing a lot of coaching. I'm a lead Scrum Master. And just recently, their DevOps organization, where they have 5 Scrum teams, they asked me to help set them up. So I've been basically diving headfirst into DevOps, and I'm finding it very interesting. Especially, it's a major culture change, and this journey's been going on for probably about a month and a half so far, and it's been very interesting. It's to me, the hardest part was actually getting started. Basically, busy. A lot of times you get stuck in analysis paralysis. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. How about you, Nitin?
So thanks, Bob. Like Bob, I'm a palindrome, and you've probably heard a lot of my lame jokes if you've attended these in the past. I too am an Agile coach. I evolved from a traditional BA, got into a product owner role, or the Scrum Master role, and was recently employed with a company up in Jersey after a gap of 10 months. Hey, thank you, COVID. And helping with an Agile transformation with a few teams. In fact, we're hiring, so if you're a Scrum Master or looking for that position, reach out to me after the call. Have a lot of acronyms, love working with teams who are just starting up, or have been doing this for a while, and love to see the impact it has in the workflows. So that's a little bit about Bob and me. I'm going to put the link in the chat for the Trello.
All right, and I'm going to click this link so everybody's on the same page. And I'm going to go to Chrome, and you get to see all my ugly tabs. Come on.
Bob, which browsers work? Because somehow my default is Edge, but if Edge won't work well, then I'll get out of it.
Chrome, I've been pretty much using Chrome all along, and that usually works.
Chrome or Firefox would work well.
And I'm embarrassing myself here. I am showing everybody that I can't log in.
Oh, we don't see that.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you. I shouldn't have admitted it then.
It's like the newscasters, right? They're saying something at such speed and they misspeak or there's something wrong, but then they just keep going and they're hoping either somebody wasn't paying attention or someone was in the other room coming through. So it's just a constant string of words. So we have to practice that, Bob. You and I both sometimes.
It's looking like it's going to be very difficult for me to get logged in. So Nitin, I hope you don't mind sharing your board.
Let me try. Hold on a second.
if you need help, let me know.
Nitin, if we were in the last meeting, do we have to send you our email again?
Oh, no, if you're already on the board and it's the same email address that you used to log in, that's all you need. So I'm actually on an iPad trying to figure how to share. Menu. Might have John shared the Trello board. John, you up for that today?
Yeah, give me a moment. Let me just kind of clean up what I have here. I don't think you need to see all my other tabs and whatnot here, and I'll just be distracting. Hold on just one moment.
Okay, I'm good.
Oh, you're good?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, I couldn't share, Bob, because only the host can share this meeting, so I don't have the appropriate privileges.
Oh, no problem. Again, we apologize, everyone. I should have logged in before the meeting. But my daughter, again, hate to give excuses, but my daughter got accepted at Mason Gross at Rutgers University, which is their art school. And then they had a virtual tour right before this meeting. So I was kind of just paying attention to that. But anyway, let me share this. So everyone, you should see the Trello board now.
I see. We see it now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. Again, I apologize for not being logged in first. All right. So Nitin, you want to explain how we do this for anybody that might not have been at the last meeting?
Yeah, sure. So Kanban is one of the flavors of agility. And we're so used to hearing about Scrum, Bob and I said, let's try something a little different. And Kanban is about visualizing flow. So how do you go from one state to another? And in this informal conversation or get together, our topics emerge. And if you were to read this board going left to right, we'd have a few things on the left saying to do or discuss with some cards below that. And it would move towards the right. So in progress, with a little green indicator, there's an admin explaining Lean Coffee. So that's happening right now. That's in the present moment. And there's something else there also. What's the difference between Scrum and Kanban? And I might be comparing the two of them. If we were to move ahead and something happens, maybe a technical interrupt or we want to pause, we might move a card to the blocked section. And eventually, we're going to just move it to done. And what we typically find is people like to have about a 5-minute conversation on one of these topics. And if there's an interest, we might give them another minute or so. The aha moments are just points of reflection that anybody can add to as well, either during the meeting or towards the end. It's informal and it's up to you. So if you were to visualize this, we're going from left to right, from the to-do to the done and the aha moments. We also give everybody an opportunity to log in to Trello. If you haven't, again, put it in the chat. We'll send you a link where you can add these cards. Once you do that, Bob, can you hover over the plus? Let's just showcase or add a card. And Bob here could just write a sample topic or something of interest to him and just hit the enter once he's done. What's the difference between an Agile coach and Scrum Master? There you go. There's a topic. It's as quick and easy as that. So we'd like to invite everybody just to either scroll up and down this list, because we had some things from our last month's session, or put in a topic of interest to you. After that, we'll get into some sort of a voting system, which you see a little thumbs up sign. You got 2 on a card, 3 on another, and so on and so forth. We'll give you that opportunity as well. Why we do this is quite simple. In a somewhat democratic way, we want to just adhere to what's more pressing or what's more popular right now. If this was an Agile or Scrum team, the most important prioritized work would come in an order from the top to the bottom, as in, hey, pick the top card first, or pick the top piece of requirement, and then work on that. And what we're seeing Bob do informally is already start moving these up and down a little bit. So let's give everybody just a minute, and I'll go back to the chat in case anybody still isn't in.
And basically, if you want to put a vote in, you basically, there's a vote button right here, and you could add a vote. And I'm just going to show you that now that I voted, this moved this item up to 4 items. And basically, you can get that on screen by just clicking on the card. And if you click on the thumbs up symbol as well, you could actually put a vote in as well. But I don't want to skew the, everybody's vote, so I'm not going to vote anymore.
And the way Trello is designed, you can only put in 1 vote per card. If you want an actual team, perhaps all in a room together, you could come up with the numbers and, hey, everybody gets maybe 7 votes. And it doesn't have to be 1 per card, and then they can pick and choose. They might say, hey, I want to spread this. I might put 3 on a card and maybe 4 somewhere else, so on and so forth. So the most pressing one might have more votes by that person. And again, towards the end, we'll just see which card or topic has the most likes or votes.
So let's see how we're doing here. Oh, this one moved up. And again, I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm not worrying about if it's a 3, I'm not worrying about what order it is for 3. I'm just putting all the 2s and 3s together. And if somebody really cares about something, they'll vote, and it'll move it out of the 3 and maybe move it to a 4.
So Bob, there are also a few things I noticed that are in progress. Maybe we can move them left somewhere,
Sure, we can say they're done.
because they're the older ones.
Well, I actually moved in explaining coffee, and that's what you did.
Correct.
And I thought you started explaining the difference between Scrum and Kanban.
Yes, just a few contrasts. So let's see. Let's move that to blocked for a moment,
Okay.
because I'm going to pause there, and I'm just using blocked as an informal definition here, something that has to be revisited later. But typically with Scrum teams, it's an impediment or roadblock that has a dependency outside, and they just need help with a facilitator, such as a Scrum Master or a Flow Master, to move things ahead. There's another one in progress, which I think we can move either to the to-do or discuss, or if it's remnants from the last one, we can move it somewhere else.
That was actually here when we started, so. And
okay.
some people did vote on it.
Oh yeah, it is the highest one right now.
And so
Trello is also
as
a
you
great-
see, somebody has to do this during your meeting. Some tools do this for you automatically, but Trello is not that sophisticated where it doesn't, there'd be a button in the tool where it would sort the highest for you automatically. But again, it's really not that much effort to do this. So I think we have an order list, Nitin. I think we maybe should get started. I'll just check the bottom to see if there's any votes that I might be missing. Yeah, I'll move these up.
Sure. So what's interesting is this is evolving right in front of our eyes. And this doesn't have a set agenda. for us, and that's why it's a lean coffee. And we're just going to go top down and see what to talk about. We'll give ourselves about 5 minutes a topic. Who knows, things at the bottom, if we don't get to it, we might do another lean coffee, or maybe some conversations blend into that. We'll just go with what's the most popular request, and we'll just talk about it. Bob and I are no way experts or have knowledge of anything and everything. So it's going to be interactive. We'll ask you to contribute as well, if you can.
I saw a question about discipline agile. We're very lucky to have our chapter expert on the phone with us, John. So we'll be covered on that at least. So, all right. Let's want to get started. Let's maybe start out with an easy one, and then we'll get into the theme one. If they're both 7, is that okay?
Oh, yeah, interesting. In this case, because both are the same weight, we'll let Bob just arbitrarily pick whichever one he wants.
And I always felt it's always easier to start with an easier one because what I'm assuming is the person asking this question is like, what are the best tools to use with Agile? And I've been actually every Agile team that I've ever worked with, we've used Jira. And I think it's because it's more affordable. There's very sophisticated licenses you can get, like version 1 and things like that, but it's very expensive per user. So if you were to ask Bob, I would recommend that you try Jira. And then if you found Jira didn't meet what you really needed, you could look at the other tools. And the important thing to think about when you talk about tools is you don't want them running your process. It's more of the tool should be in support of it. And a lot of the other tools are more prescribed, where they really kind of take you through a certain path. Where Jira, you can actually define the workflow that the company wants to follow. That's actually a process that I'm going through right now in real life. We have, I'd say, 7 Jira servers right now. We have like Jira 12 through 18. And it creates a problem when you want to share information between the servers. So what my bank is doing is we're doing a major migration of all our Jira instances into what we're calling Jira Data Center. So now the entire bank is going to be in one Jira instance. So it's going to be great. So if you have information in one project, you want to share it with another, it's going to be very easy. It's also a lot easier to copy things between projects. Our bank uses Jira and Confluence, where Confluence basically is a like you could call it like a wiki, or you can create web pages very quickly and share information, and it's made by the same company, so their tools are integrated, so you can view Jira items through Confluence. I find it very helpful, and the fact that the bank, my company can actually customize it to basically so that we're getting everybody in the bank now to follow one particular workflow for Agile. And again, I might be a little bit biased, but I would go with Jira first. And then if it doesn't meet your needs, go with something else. So Nitin, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. I've also had exposure to Jira, and I agree with everything Bob said. It's scalable. It's a little cheap per user, and there are a lot of add-ons or enhancements that the team can use. I've also had exposure to CA Rally. Rally is another enterprise tool that's also very good. A history of Jira, it used to be a ticketing system. So for a lot of help desk support or things getting into Kanban, and then eventually they opened it up to Agile teams. So between the two of them, I would just say, hey, figure out which one you'd like. It's typically Jira or Rally. There is an annual survey that comes out. It's called the 14th Annual State of Agile by CollabNet. It's a free download. They've also pulled a lot of people out there to say, hey, what tools do you use? And you can get a sense of what else there is out there. So just my 2 cents there as well.
Does anybody in our audience want to share?
Yeah, this is Seth. I've used Jira. I've used a bunch of the other tools as well. Recently, I've really gone enamored with Microsoft Teams, believe it or not, and just using the add-ons on it. Like Planner is in there. They call it tasks now for Planner, and you end up with a Kanban board like what you're seeing there. And it's really cool because it's really easy to set up, very light. They can adapt it, you can change it, and you can actually move the task from one team to another if you need to pretty quickly. It's just so light. It doesn't have the overhead, which is nice. So, and you have your SharePoint stuff underneath. It's all connected.
There's also Azure boards, which does a little bit more deeper than that as well. So it works really well with Teams.
Good to know. I'll look into it.
Yeah, I had a quick question. I know someone just mentioned now have used Azure DevOps and Jira. So I'm in the process of selecting a tool, for this. So, I would very much appreciate if anyone can let me know, Jira and Azure DevOps, what's the differences, which, is a benefit both in terms of for using for developers who wants to use it, as well as for the project manager.
Any other comments? Did the person that asked the question did you get the answer you're looking for? Should we move on to the next card?
I'll just make a quick comment on the question of the last person. For DevOps, you're going to somehow find a model within the tool, whichever is picked, be it Jira or Rally. It's just going to be the visualization of work and the close interactions from all parties. So both the business side and dev side. They might have engineering practices as well, which typically people at program or portfolio levels or traditional project managers may not need much of that information, but the tools will somehow let you have that. Also, they do typically give you like a quick trial, like a 7-day or 14-day. But I bet you if you sign up with your phone number, a sales rep will call you and could also extend that. So it's a mix, it's not a quick and easy answer to offer, but just a comment on the DevOps side of it.
Thank you.
And for our bank, we use Jira, and we also use ServiceNow. So for the engineering work that we do, we'll use Jira. For any kind of support, like production defects, we'll use ServiceNow.
I have a quick question on that. This is Lauren. If you're trying to share with external partners, what would you say is the better tool here? Teams, Jira, or Trello?
All of them are equally adept at doing that. It just depends on your network policy, your organizational firewall settings, amongst other things. Trello is ultra lightweight. If you're a startup and you don't necessarily need, burn down charts or other things, it's ultra easy. But all of them will do that in sharing with others. You just need to give them login credentials and allow them into your environment, which I would check with the network administrator. Okay, Bob, in the interest of time.
So maybe if you're just getting started, you start with Trello, see if it works, and then basically maybe graduate to Jira. Is that what you're saying? If you're starting brand new.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
They also have Jira also offers a cloud instance. Our bank has our own instance where we have it on our servers, but you can also buy Jira access on their cloud. And so it makes implementation a lot easier because basically you don't have to deal with the infrastructure and having the servers and people supporting the servers. But then there's a higher cost, of course.
If anybody's been using PPM Pro, we just started using a tool, an add-on to that called Project Place, and it has a Kanban setup, card setup in there as well. So it ties with the task list that you have that can be imported from Microsoft Project. So it aligns pretty well. We just started using it, and so they have that feature within Plan View PPM Pro. So give that a try too if you have that available. It looks pretty interesting.
Along the same lines, Tim, if you have Microsoft Project, there's an advanced license of it that you actually connect to server, and you can convert the normal Gantt view of a project plan to a planner view, to a Kanban board. And it makes it really easy to just to do that as your first step moving towards an agile development if you're a project manager.
I think Nitin is indicating that our time is over on this subject. We have to move on.
What? Did I hear an Elmo? Which is ELMO. Enough, let's move on. Yes, I am interjecting as the rude co-facilitator because Bob is so polite. So, I actually forgot to put the timer initially. But yeah, this is just a visual. We time box it and all. And in Lean Coffee, it was, hey, there are other things to get to. So Elmo, enough, let's move on.
Okay,
Bob, hold us
We'll-
accountable.
we'll follow the rules. So,
Okay, so I gotta quickly set my timer on the next one. You
all
want to
right.
pick the
So
tough
if
one
you
or
can
the
set your
easy one?
timer, Nitin, we'll grab this one. This one is, I think, easier than the themes one. The themes one could get interesting. Okay. Scenario: you are a new PM to the organization, and you're the only PM in the organization. The org wants to be agile, but they don't know where to start, and they're currently waterfall. What should the PM do first? That PM. You want to take it first pass, or I can? It's up to you, Nitin.
Gee, didn't you say you picked the easier one, Bob?
Okay, doing this in
That's
5
fine.
minutes is going to be very interesting. What I would highly recommend, if the PM doesn't have experience, again, I don't want to sell coaching services, but I think that's where an agile coach could probably really help, where you could bring a coach in and actually help the organization figure out, how they want to actually do their agile transformation. And the coach could also provide necessary training, because the last thing you want to do is start, Scrum without any training, because what ends up happening is people pick up the Scrum guide and they start doing the events, having no idea why they're doing them. And you're going to lose out on your whole agile transformation, and would probably end up with giving it a bad feeling across the organization. And it would be much harder the next time they wanted to try. So what do you think, Nitin?
I agree. Hire an agile coach. Start off small, as in do an experiment. Pick one project or one initiative with one team, ideally that they're co-located and they're all willing just to learn something new, and they're not criticized for failing or having that concept, and see how that might then permeate through the organization. I did this with a bank a couple of years ago. They went small, and then they eventually just rolled it out to everyone else, and it was great. So please do look for help. If you're a PM who has a budget or can influence that, please look for someone like that. So simple suggestions, but it's fun. Also, you had a novel opportunity. You are looking into getting more towards industry trends. A lot of organizations are heading this way. So I'd congratulate you firstly just to be in that position, and then just look for help. Hey, Bob, we still got time. Any other
Okay.
comments? Anybody else?
Well, I could add, like, BMY Melt, where I work, there's like 50,000 employees. So we have mainframe teams. So you could look at them, they were hard set in waterfall. And so what we did is we got one team set up as a feature team, where basically they could do UI, middleware, and backend work, as a single team. And they took a responsibility for testing, and they were extremely successful. And that, like Nitin said, start small. So now, again, I'm coaching the Scrum Master in this team. And now they've actually set up on the second team, because they had something with a critical deadline, and they realized the value that Agile and Scrum can provide. So again, if you start small and you're successful, it will start building on that. The last thing you want to do is, if you have 100 people, you don't want to have 100 people just jump in and start doing it. It would be very difficult. Like you want to get some quick wins, and then that will then spread throughout your organization. Does anyone have anything else they want to share?
If you, if you have no budget at all, again, you are going to do the things that they failed. They said don't try, which is go look at the Scrum guide, find things, but start with a retrospective or just some of the techniques, and then you're going to have to go to the Agile coach, because you really need that in the long. You got a minute and 6 seconds.
Anyone else?
And just a quick question. If you have just a team of, say, 6 to 7 developers, developers and you have all the external, other teams, kind of getting together and, setting up and giving their requirements, this is what they need to do, then in that case, would it work to switch to a Scrum framework?
You have to have support from above. What I found is when I was at IBM, I worked with teams, we decided we wanted to be Scrum, and we kind of did it in what Nitin mentioned in previous presentations, where you go into stealth mode, you kind of just do it your own way. But eventually you'll find that you do need that management support. So one of the things you want to do is get management to support going Agile, and then looking across the organization, seeing if like what you mentioned, seeing if you can get volunteers to be part of this team. And usually if you can get strong people, those are the people that other people will listen to and follow. That would work. And then you also want to push for having a feature team. And a lot of organizations are set up in components where they have UI people working together, middleware people working together, and backend people working together. And that's what puts a PM in their job, because somebody has to coordinate the work between the three teams. What you want with an Agile team is you want all those skills on the same team. And guess what? You no longer need that PM, because the team does the coordination. They figure out how the UI and the middleware and the backend is going to work among themselves. So again, start small.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a small shop, and essentially the developers do everything within themselves, except for the network team, which is they are also within our group, but they are a separate unit. But otherwise, the UI, everything is done by the set of developers. It's a very different kind of industry. It's a legal shop. So, that's why, because there's so many changes that come so frequently, so, the best way I thought was, to go Agile rather than having a waterfall method where, when everything is done and then they come up, no, this is not the way we want, so if we go Agile, would that help, because after just 2 or 3 set of features you complete, and you demo to the group, they say, okay, no, this is not the way we want, let's have the changes here. And that's how you could incorporate. And from one sprint to the other sprint, you can have a better product as compared to following the waterfall methodology. Your suggestions, Bob?
That's exactly the approach you want to take. But when you create this team, you want to eliminate dependencies to other teams, because the minute my team has to communicate with another team, things get slowed down. So I try to have my team be able to complete everything that's necessary. I have the skills on my team to complete everything that's necessary to deliver that particular item in the sprint. And that will help with your speed, and it will speed your adoption if you have these teams, because the minute you have to start coordinating multiple teams, it just gets messy, because then you're dealing with this team's priority is not what you're doing. The other team's priority is not what you're doing. So then you have to do all that negotiation. And that's when the PM comes into play.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the suggestion. Yes.
Sure. So how are we doing on time, Nitin?
We went over. Well, that's okay.
Boy, we're
getting there.
batting 1,000 here. Okay.
Yeah, next time, pick an even easier one. Oh.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Which
gonna
is
let
exactly
you-
reflective of dev teams, right? It's, yeah, this is easy. You knock it down in a day. Oh, day 2 comes about. What happened? Or wait a minute, something else is there. Well, that's fine.
Okay.
It's all meaningful conversations for all of us. Okay, the timer.
Okay, set the timer, and here we go. Do you have to start with themes before developing epics, then story maps? What's the appropriate approach? So, that's the fun one. Okay, good.
Oh, this is the fun one, according to Bob. Coming from a traditional BA background, getting into product owner, working a multitude of product owners at a program level, I think you need some hierarchy depending on what you're doing. Scrum doesn't specify. Scrum just talks about a product backlog, which is a wish list and a collection of things that have to be churned out. As your teams grow bigger and as your applications increase or you're working at a program level, I would like to see at least 2 levels of hierarchy. Some tools support this, such as having a feature and then a user story. Some people are better saying, hey, these are the features I'm responsible for working when you get into project management or having some sort of an outline. When it comes to members of the dev team, give them at least some correlation to 2 levels. They're people who've done teams and epics, then features and stories. And then they're tools that have their own hierarchies. If you are doing into some sort of release planning, which is going to span maybe a couple of weeks to a couple of months, and you want to give the leadership a good visual of things, have something like this. So certainly have a hierarchy. I recommend teams, then epics, then features, and then your product backlog items such as user stories. Bob, back to you.
Sure, if I could add to that, what we do is Jira has a tool called Plans. It used to be called Jira Portfolio. And so what we're doing now, which I think is pretty brilliant, our product owners are creating what we call initiatives, which are the same, which pretty much equates to a theme. And so basically they're creating them in Jira Plans. And then what happens in the actual Jira projects, we're creating, let me put it this way. They're creating in plans, Jira Plans, the initiative, and then they're creating epics that are related to that initiative, all right? And then basically the Jira projects, the work that the team is doing, they need to tie it to one of those epics. And then that way it kind of flows up into that initiative or theme level. It's pretty sophisticated stuff that we're just started doing, but it's gonna, it's having a little bit of a slow start, but I can see it really being valuable because basically it's allowing the product owner to work at a much higher level rather than in the individual, Jira projects where they're actually identifying the initiatives that we're doing. And that's where, that's what initial is driving the business value. And then the associated epics that would support that initiative. And a lot of times people get confused, as far as the term epic. And that's, if you're using Jira, that's what we use. But an epic also could be equated as a feature. And then the feature or epic could be a mixture of a number of items in Jira, which are often called stories. So it's hard to really describe what I just said without showing pictures, but that's how you would do it. You have your product owner, basically, they're the one setting the vision. They're the one that basically is responsible for delivering value. And they're the ones that are responsible for driving the strategy. And then you could do it that way that I just described. Does anybody have any other ideas that we could add to that? Did the person that asked the question, was it answered?
One comment about this is that you're talking about themes and epics. They're only a challenge if you have a large enough book of work. If it's small and team level, you don't even need to do that.
Right. Well, I'm
Agreed.
working in a large enterprise. So yeah, you're right. It depends on what you are working on. But you have to look at, your team's being funded and you have to basically show what value you're delivering. And we do it through the initiatives. And so if you're able to communicate the value at your individual project level, that's great.
That was a great comment. So yeah, if you can reflect the work and you're not a huge initiative, you may not need this hierarchy right away. Keep it light.
Yeah, keep it simple.
And to the question I did, thank you so much for breaking it down. Really makes sense. And this is Sator.
Thanks for asking it. That's all right. This is the number 7. Do you use any tool to manage budget and expense for Agile projects? Do you want to take a pass at that, Nitin?
Yeah, I don't, and it's wonderful. I don't deal with budgets.
You're so lucky. Oh boy.
I let other people figure out how to keep me around. That's all. And it works really well.
The product owner is responsible for the budget, and you know, when you if you have a true agile team, a fully enabled product owner, they're responsible, but they'll delegate that authority to the scrum master sometimes, depending on who it is, or somebody else on the product owner's team. We use a separate tool to actually manage the financials, and basically what I do is I tie my epics in my Jira projects, which tie back to the initiatives, which actually show the savings that the business is supposed to be getting. So that's how we do it. We basically create epics, and I create like what you call like a quarterly release plan, where pretty much I'll say, okay, these 3 epics we plan to do in the first quarter, these 4 epics in the next quarter. And then basically then we can show the business how we're progressing on that. And then when the epic is delivered, or it could be a combination of epics, when they're delivered, the business value is obtained. And then we track that in separate other, tools. We don't actually keep track of that in Jira. We track the work, but not the actual savings and things like that. Does anybody else have any ideas how you do that?
Just 1 or 2 quick comments there. Irrespective of tools, I know the question is more focused on that. I would encourage people to start thinking about funding a team versus funding individuals into a group. If you're using something larger like the Skilled Agile, they do talk about funding a value stream to get into an art, which is a little bit advanced. But just move away, if you can, from, hey, how do I get one resource? Talk about the entire team, because you need the collective wisdom and intellect of a group to move ahead. And we'll leave it open for others to comment in case they have other suggestions or ideas.
Yeah. My only comment about this is if you are funding by a team, you sort of know what the budgets are for the labor because it's a constant. If it's a fully funded team of 5 individuals, you say, all right, for the next 12 weeks or the next quarter, it's going to be this much, and then the amount of work is what's variable. But the funding is going to stay the same. But which tool you're using, it ends up being Excel, it ends up being whatever finance tool it's in there that's in your organization, because that's the last thing to change.
That's a great comment, and that simplicity. At an earlier organization, I was told, hey, you're budgeted for X amount of dollars till the end of the year. Do whatever you want. Don't ask me for more. We're like, okay, then we just have to worry about the scope of work and our engineering practices and just delivering things out the door every 2 weeks. And that's it.
Any other comments? Oh, wow, we picked up a minute. Okay, we'll give a minute back that we went over on the first couple. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So going, gone. All right, this is a 6, so we'll bring this one in. How to coordinate multiple Scrum teams working with a platform team that's making a shared service.
A platform team.
That sounds like less. That sounds like large scale Scrum.
Yeah, I think when you have a multitude of teams, you are going to just figure out ways to talk to each other, such as the Scrum of Scrums, amongst other things. Scrum at Scale also does that, and others do it. But I'll open it for the gentleman who made the comment on less. Would you like to just share your story or thoughts or observations?
Well, one thing they don't do in less is Scrum of Scrums. So let's just get that out there. There's ceremonies per team, and then there's an overall review with all teams with a representative from each. There are sometimes travelers between teams. Sometimes there's specialty skills that have to move between. So that's not uncommon in that situation either. There's a really, really good website for less. I recommend you taking a peek. Even in the case where there's multiple Scrum teams building one product, there's only one product owner. And you might have several Scrum Masters to help coordinate different Scrum teams to get them into their ceremonies and whatever method that you'd like to bring along, but there's still only one product owner. And there is a notion of an assistant product owner to help ensure there's consistency and communication, but there's still one individual that's responsible for the P&L and the vision of the platform that you're building. And it's a really important concept within. The actual Last Space site, the website has some really, really good, interesting ways to scale up Scrum and make sure you're preserving Scrum. I think, John, you were with us with Michael when we were talking about these concepts at our Scrum class. John C.
Chris,
Oh, I was nodding my head, but yes.
Chris, you touched on a really, really important point about having one product owner. Can you talk about that role and how that prioritizes between teams?
It's one backlog and one product owner, between all teams. And so when you have that notion of a product owner, that the one individual that really is that owner, it's also one backlog. There's not a backlog per team, right? When you're talking about sprint planning, everybody's there pulling items down. You may work in separate streams. Instead of component streams, you're doing feature streams. So you might have teams that are aligned per feature, a feature theme, if you will. But that product owner really owns the full trunk of everything that comes together. Assistant product owners will help to that end, where maybe they are organized by your feature stream, or maybe just there to assist with the messages. We develop products at our organization with assistant product owners. We have a platform called Audit. By the way, BNY uses this, if you're interested. I heard you say BNY. And then within the actual Audit platform, there's several different assistant teams for different approaches to SharePoint versus file systems versus Azure, Exchange, different cloud repositories, collections, structured data, Oracle, but it's one product owner that owns that vision. And as the assistant product owners will help assist in writing the requirements and even understanding the feature sets, feature parity across all of the different streams. They often serve as travelers between the teams to be sure that everybody is really driving that continuous integration on the trunk, so to speak. Everybody's working from the same trunk and building the product that's going to be consistent and work together. There's 37 different data collectors, say, in our platform. But there's only one product owner for that. That's not to say there's 37 different teams here. There's probably 6, maybe 5 teams, and then they'll own different pieces of those 37 streams that work through the platform. So in and of itself, it's difficult. It breaks down at times. I'll be quite honest about it. You're not supposed to have a dedicated release engineer, or the teams are supposed to do it themselves. At that scale, we find it really difficult. So we break the pure Scrum, for the purists that are out there, and we have a dedicated release project manager and a few representatives from each team, basically the APOs and the project owner herself. And issue management's a little unique too, because QA at that scale, again, it should be handled by Scrum teams in its most pure sense, but we do have a dedicated QA team, and they are ambassadors. They sit in on the development pieces, but they are dedicated just to testing, as opposed to having that cross-functional relationship within the team itself. So for us, and it is moving more towards the Scrum side as opposed to having those dedicated teams. It's just that, we evolved from component and almost waterfall-like development, and these are the last remnants of those specializations as we've moved to more agile and if not pure Scrum in the development of the products themselves. So do you have a specific question about the product owner? She's actually in Forbes as one of the top women in IT right now. Her name is Farah Vajayan. It's a really, really great mind, visionary, and runs this massive platform for us. And it's one of the few products that we have actually at our organization.
I'm in product owner heaven right now. I just absolutely love the narrative and how you've described it. You've shared an empowered product owner or a true product owner as compared to, as Craig Lyman would say, a fake product owner. You actually threw out the term in class when I attended years ago. You have a fake product owner, and you can use that so that people, why are they saying fake product? Or, well, find your real one. And it's not a committee.
Right. Yeah.
It's the voice of the customer, someone trusted, someone empowered, someone available who has that skill set.
We also do another side of this that isn't part of Scrum as well. Because of the stakeholders are so important to us, international banks, wink, wink, along with healthcare, large international oil, we bring them into a cab with the product owners so they can review directly with customers and speak to customers. So we formalize that process. The platform is so large and it affects so many different industries that we'll it's not just a customer feedback loop through a support channel. We intentionally create a client advisory board and vet the client. They'll sit in on these boards and have a chance to speak directly to our product owners and show off what they do.
Awesome. I'll make one comment before considering jumping onto another thing, just as in comparison with Scrum.org's Nexus or Scale Professional Scrum. They too have that philosophy as one enterprise product backlog with one product owner, and just work with that mindset through that framework as well. In the chat, I'm seeing some good comments. I also put in less.works. So if you want to explore a little bit more, including the visuals, take a look and you'll get some more insights.
Yeah, and just on that site, you're going to find a lot of information more than just less. He's got a lot of history about lean. He breaks it down what a feature team is, what a component team is. I use his site all the time. Craig is brilliant. And also the assistant product owner is also sometimes known as the area product owner, depending on your organization, how you want to call that person. But it's very powerful.
Craig's website is what I'm referring to with less, for sure.
Yeah. Bob and I both took classes with Craig. I often tell him he reminded me of Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. So some people agreed with me on that. But okay, Bob, should we move ahead?
Yes, you're the time box. So
I'm the time box. Oh, okay.
All right.
So you can pick another easy one?
It depends. Okay. I just picked the top one. What projects should not be done via Agile? All right. Well, if you ever read the book "Doing Work in Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time" by Jeff Sutherland, he will tell you that you could probably do everything with Scrum, but there are points when you can't. And what I usually do when I start working with a team is, I'll do my training and I'll get them up to speed, and then I'll come back and say, I can't make you be Agile. If you don't want to be Agile, Bob can talk all he wants, and you're still not going to be Agile. So basically, you have to have the desire within the organization to be Agile, and also within the team, because some team members like to be told what to do, and that it's a major change when you're an Agile team, because all of a sudden you have to volunteer and basically take responsibility. It's no longer, you can't blame your manager for assigning you something and stuff like that. So it's a totally different mindset. So it's really a lot to do with culture. As far as when you ask that question, what you should not do when you should not use Agile. So did you have any experience, Nitin?
I think there's another way to slice it as well.
Sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, when the product can't be delivered incrementally, we can't deliver a bridge incrementally. It either is up and standing and you can cross it, or it's dangerous and you can't. You can't deliver an airplane incrementally, believe it or not. You have to have that airplane honed, tuned, and it's either flying and worthy of flying, or it's not. So there might be some processes within what you're doing that would be Scrum oriented, but the project at large is not an Agile project by any means. You can't. The Project of the Year award was a perfect example of waterfall. You can't hang wire and deliver electricity incrementally. if you're building a 10-mile line across the state, right? I mean, that needs to be done, planned for. That was 3.5 years worth of planning, 9 months worth of work, right? So that's a perfect example of processes that are well known. Of course, there's some learning that's going on there, some empiricism, but it's not a discovery process. It's not an empirical process that Agile offers. And I think that's the real slicing and dice of it. When you get into a project that there's great uncertainty and you have to learn what the problem is before you start, then I would almost say that's a great flag for saying, hey, we should probably practice Agile.
Yeah, great comments there. I would supplement by just saying, if you're willing to work or welcome the unknown, then you can head towards agility. If you're willing to fail and learn, then you can welcome agility. You can even go so much as say, hey, even with manufacturing processes, there are other flavors of agility, such as Kanban, that could help. And you get into lean processes and 3 types of waste, amongst other things. I would also plan to seed here for others, and I'm a little curious about Scrum in hardware. So if you follow a gentleman by the name of Joe Justice, and he's a professional trainer with Scrum Inc. now, really awesome guy, met him in person. He's talking about how do we integrate some sort of agile practices when it comes to hardware. And you don't think of like software development as such in there. And then he gave some examples, and so Dr. Jeff Sutherland, if you're building missiles, right? Like either they work or they don't. But are you going to have like iterations every 2 weeks or 4 weeks and you're going to blow up something worth millions of dollars? How would that come in place, right? Or a fighter jet, right? Is there an MVP? Do we have to wait for something to finish? How would it work? So there is some interesting readouts and information out there on that. But I agree with everything that's said, look towards an agile mindset with working with the unknown, having frequent checkpoints, and trying to discover things. Anybody else have any other thoughts around this?
I just want to say, I really do like that idea of one product owner, because all the things we've talked about, like Seth's point about the budgeting and what you said, hey, here's what you have, and having a fixed cost, that's really nice. But all of it only works if they agree, if when you have one product owner, if everything's going through them and they're empowered to make the decisions, then it could work. It does work.
Yeah. I loved it when I was a product owner at some point, and I could make a lot of the key decisions. No bottlenecks. It put some pressure on me as well. Like, hey, Nitin, we need an answer. Yeah, I'll get it to you soon. So yeah, one product owner, one trusted product owner who's empowered, voice of the customer, is much better than a committee.
All right, can we call this one done? Well, we have less than 2 minutes left, so I'm not sure if we should pull another card because we always want to end on time. So I think we could probably end this session maybe 2 minutes early, then stop the recording, then just open to a general discussion, if that's okay with you, Nitin.
Yeah, are you asking for a product owner type decision? Yep, that's fine.
Well, I'm being nice.
Okay, yeah, you're just being nice. Okay, I get it now. Yeah, it's usually an informal.
So let me share.
Bob and I will stay on, or at least one of us. We can continue looking at the board or keeping it to an open forum.
So let me just this is the code that will be in the email that John will be sending you, so that you can use to claim your PDU. You can also claim an SEU from Scrum Alliance if you're maintaining your certification there as well. And so with that, we can conclude this, and I will stop the recording.